Hey there, welcome back to Creepy Encounters. In today's video, Yellow Jeep. Random girl tells her boyfriend she's gonna try to hurt me. Mom was stalked/harassed while living alone. The guy who tried to give me a ride home. This happened about 30 years ago. I was delivering pizza. This was a Friday night and we were busier than normal. I had made a run up to one of the better hotels. After I got paid, I turned around and noticed this really sick Jeep at the other end of the row. I thought to myself I wouldn't mind having that. It was a base yellow, with 4 lines of other colors, that ran in a swirl, and checkmark patterns, with a light bar on top, and another one between the headlights, plus some oversized tires. I noticed that as I get in my car, the Jeep cranks up. As I pull out, it drops in behind me. I also noticed that it follows me back to the store. As I circle the building as we were supposed to do, I park, and just happen to look across the street, and there's the Jeep sitting across the road. I thought that was funny, until I left again, and it followed me again. It made every turn I made. If I decided to do 70 in a 35, it did too. If I did 20 in a 50, it did too. It followed me for about 12 runs, about 2.5 hours. I'm not one to get scared. I never get upset or worried no matter the situation I'm in. But I had started to get scared. I had finally decided that if it followed me one more time, I would call the cops. Then suddenly halfway through my next run, it just disappeared. Which scared me worse than seeing him. Because I didn't know where he might show up. But I never saw him again. He didn't disappear quick enough. Fellow in the yellow Jeep, let's not meet. This probably happened about mid-late 2015, maybe August. Anyway, for some context, around that time I used to start hanging out with a group of older, teenage kids, while I was the black sheep due to being younger than everyone else. I used to hang out with them doing stuff like sitting on the corner of my street and just chatting. Anyway, one night, remembering correctly, only a few of us decided to hang out, and it was with mostly group members I didn't meet, but I think I recognized 1 or 2 people, so thought I was safe, and we just headed slightly uphill on an uphill street, but less than 1-minute walk from where I lived. I can't remember what was said to her to do this, but the girl knew my name, which I'm assuming she learned from another group member, since I don't think I remember seeing her before. For anyone wondering what she looked like, I believe from memory that she was maybe 5'6", clear skin and long brown hair. Hate to admit it, but she was kinda good looking to me now I think back. Anyway, thinking back, I must have said some dumb and annoying to her kid stuff, because she went on her phone and I can't remember exactly what she said over the phone, but it was something like "I'm gonna hurt this kid" called up. After that, I do remember sprinting back home and locking the door once I got inside. I didn't hear her following after me, but I wasn't turning around to check. That is definitely one of the fastest runs I've ever had in my life. I explained to my mom what happened when I got back home, and I decided myself that I wasn't gonna go back out that night after what had just happened. We kept peering through the curtains for the rest of the night to make sure I wasn't followed, but we never saw her again that night or ever again. But I hung out with that group for a bit longer, but then I began to realize that some of them were toxic people. I gave candy to some a couple days before Halloween, because they were apparently going on holiday, so I stopped hanging out with them, and I think most of them have probably left my neighborhood now. For all I know, that girl could still live in a nearby house and be near me, but I haven't been bothered by her again. Nevertheless, creepy girl, let's not meet. My mom was 20 years old, living alone in an apartment in a relatively safe suburb in Southern California in the late 1970s. My dad lived about 15 minutes away with his parents, and they had been dating for about a year when she began having trouble at her place. She would arrive home from work in the evenings with her TV turned on to a channel with static at full volume. Other things in her home had obviously been touched, like doors closed/open that weren't when she left, or her fridge being wide open. She called the police, but since nothing was taken, there wasn't much attention paid to her concerns. This happened a few times a week for about a month before it escalated. My parents were talking on the phone and doing the stereotypical lovebird process of saying goodbye on the phone, but each repeating goodbye rather than being the first to hang up. My mom said bye, my dad said bye, and then a third voice whispered goodbye on the line. My dad said "I'll be there in 2 minutes" and handed the phone to his mom to stay on the line. My mom cowered in fear while my dad sped from his house and arrived to find my mom sobbing on her couch. She assumed the person was in another room in her home, but was too scared to run outside and hang up the phone. When my dad got there, he went through the house ready to strangle the person they both assumed was hiding somewhere. When nobody was found, they called the police. The investigators told my mom that whoever it is just wants to scare you, and let you know that they could if they wanted to. They also suggested that my dad was the most likely culprit and asked questions about their relationship. A couple days went by with nothing happening, until one night they were driving home from a date and my dad realized they were being followed and tailgated. He stopped the car at a red light and ran to the driver's door of the car that had been following them. The driver's window was down and my dad put his hands on the guy's collar momentarily before realizing that the guy was just hammered drunk and frantically slurring an apology, and was seemingly just following the lights in front of him but was not the intruder. A couple weeks after this incident, the same thing began happening to another woman at the complex and the cops determined it was the son of the property manager, who had both keys to every unit, and also access to the telecommunications that allowed him to essentially tap the residents' phones. My parents moved in together and left the complex shortly after, but the guy was never arrested given the crime was essentially breaking and entering and the police discouraged pressing charges and suggested they move on. When I was around 8 or 9 I would walk to my mom's work, it was less than half a block away. I also lived in a small town of 1,500 people, after I was done swimming at the local pool. Every now and then I think of this story and wonder what if. Shout out to my mom for nailing stranger danger into my brain. Anyways, one day I left the pool early. It was around 8 p.m. and all my friends had left as summer was just about over, so I decided to leave early. The half block to my mom's work was in a cul-de-sac-like area, so you couldn't see the building when you were leaving the pool. Until you came to the halfway point. I was by a house with a small grove of evergreen trees when this blue old car pulled up beside me. There was a man I had never seen before in my life. He rolled down his window and gestured for me to come closer. Instant panic set in. My mom had told me about things like this happening. I didn't move closer. I just simply looked at him and said, "What?" He looked at me and leaned really close into the passenger's seat near me. "Do you want a ride?" I froze, my mind was racing. He didn't say the code word my mom and I had. Why was he asking me this? I had never seen him before in my life. I then decided to walk into the yard with the evergreen trees. I shouted at him, "No, I live right here." The guy said something, but I couldn't hear him as I was walking towards the house. He paused for a minute, watched me walk away and rolled up his window and sped away. Once I knew he was off the same street, I ran back to the pool and called my mom bawling. She came to the pool immediately and walked me to her work. She also called the police and I had to talk with a cop about what happened. Nothing ever came of it. I didn't get the license plate number, so they never found out who it was. I wasn't allowed to walk alone from the pool anymore after that for the rest of the summer. A few weeks later, right at the beginning of school, I don't know if it ended up being true or was a rumor, but apparently some guy had walked into the school and was snuck by the office staff. He ended up knocking on a classroom door and said he was here to pick up his kid as there was a family emergency or something. The teacher didn't recognize this male and immediately told the office staff. He ended up being told to leave and the police were called. This was around 2003-2004, and like I said, no clue if the last story was even true. I just remember everyone talking about it in the cafeteria about how me and this other kid almost got abducted that year. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more real-life creepy encounters around the world. See you in the next video. Bye.